I wasn't supposed to see it. That's what keeps echoing in my head, like a heartbeat I can't slow down. I wasn't supposed to see it. She told me the cabin didn't have Wi-Fi, that they were going totally off-grid for her bachelorette weekend, just her and 6 of her bridesmaids. Wine, river swims, healing energy, whatever that means. I didn't question it. I never do. I'm the kind of guy who says, okay, have fun, and then microwaves leftover spaghetti while checking the weather for places I'm not going. That's who I am. That's who she always said she needed. A calm man. A stable man. A man who wouldn't make her feel boxed in. I was that man. But the camera in the cabin disagreed. See, the Airbnb was booked under my account. It was a surprise I'd planned months ago, something to make her feel pampered. Private chef, hot tub, custom welcome baskets with handwritten notes for each guest. What I didn't know is that the owner left the security system active. Not in the bedrooms or bathrooms, nothing creepy like that, just a small cam tucked above the kitchen window, facing the living room. Motion activated. Cloud synced. Auto alerts straight to my email. I didn't even remember that it was linked. Until Saturday night. 3:17 a.m. I got a ping. Movement detected, main room. Half asleep, I clicked the preview. And my chest caved in. The video started with her, my bride-to-be, dancing barefoot in a white silk robe, holding a half-empty wine bottle, mascara smudged, hair wild. Her voice was hoarse from screaming Beyoncé lyrics hours earlier. She stumbled onto the couch and yelled, "I should have married Seth. At least he cheated with confidence." The room erupted in laughter. Someone, I think it was her cousin Layla, shouted, "Girl, don't settle for Ellis just 'cause he folds your laundry." Another, "You mean your emotional support spreadsheet?" More laughing. Louder now. Drunker. Meaner. Then she stood on the coffee table, raised her wine bottle like a microphone, and announced to the room, "Let me tell you how to train a husband. First, pick one that worships you like a goddess. Second, lie until he thinks it was his idea." They clapped. They howled. I couldn't breathe. She wasn't done. She looked straight into the camera, not realizing it was a camera, and said, "If Ellis ever found out what I did in this room 3 hours ago, he'd cry. But he'd still show up to the wedding in a bow tie and call it fate." Everyone screamed. Someone yelled, "Shots." Someone else said, "This never leaves the room." And someone, I couldn't tell who, whispered, "You're so messed up. I love it." The video ended. I just sat there, motionless, staring at the paused frame of her face, frozen mid-laugh, in the home I paid for, during the party I funded, for the woman I loved. And it was in that silence, in the pitch black of our apartment, that I realized something. I wasn't angry. I was humiliated. I had become the punchline of my own engagement. And the worst part? This wasn't even the beginning. Because when she came home the next day, hungover and radiant and barefoot in my hoodie, she kissed me on the neck and whispered, "You would have been proud of me. I didn't do anything stupid." And for some reason, I believed her, until I checked the second video. And that's when everything really fell apart. I didn't open the second video right away. I couldn't. I left it sitting there in my inbox, marked unread, like it would somehow evaporate if I just ignored it long enough. But it stayed, waiting, like a loaded weapon I didn't know how to unload. She came home Sunday night, smiling like nothing happened. Hair still curled, fake tan glowing under our apartment's cheap hallway light, suitcase rolling behind her like a trophy. She threw her arms around me and said the weekend was exactly what she needed. I nodded. I even made pasta. She didn't need it. I kept glancing at her phone while we sat on the couch. It buzzed 3 times in an hour, each time with a name I didn't recognize. T, Rain Kissmark, and Shay Shay Blackheart. Probably her girls. Probably deleting things. Scrubbing. At some point, she walked into the bathroom and started humming while brushing her teeth. I opened my laptop and clicked the second video. It started slower. The room was dim. Most of the girls had gone to bed, or passed out, or maybe just disappeared into thin air. I honestly didn't care. The only ones still awake were Brenna and a guy I didn't recognize. That's right, a guy, sitting on the same couch I watched her dance on just hours earlier. Shirtless, leaning back like he lived there. She was in her robe, the same one she wore in the video where she mocked me, and she was close to him. Not sitting on his lap or anything, but close enough that my stomach turned. They were whispering. I couldn't make out the words, not at first, but I could see her body language. The way her hand brushed his knee mid-laugh. The way he looked at her like they had history. Or secrets. Or both. Then she said it. Clearly. Directly into his ear. He doesn't ask questions. That's why I said yes. He smiled. Looked at the camera. Again, not realizing it was a camera. And said, "Bet he doesn't know you used to call me on your lunch breaks." She laughed. Tossed a throw pillow at him. Then, she kissed him. Quick. Soft. Nothing scandalous, technically. Not long enough to be damning in court. But it was real. It happened. I watched it. And I felt every second of it like a slap across the teeth. That kiss, that stupid little kiss, broke something I didn't know could be broken. She stood up right after and said something like, "That's all you get. I'm engaged now." Then she stumbled into the hallway and disappeared from frame. I didn't realize I was crying until my keyboard got wet. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the dark, headphones in, replaying the video. Over and over. Not to torture myself. At least that's what I told myself. But because I needed to be sure I hadn't imagined it. That it wasn't some stress-induced hallucination born from jealousy and insecurity and every rom-com nightmare I've ever internalized. But no matter how many times I watched it, her lips touched his. Every time. The next morning, I asked her, casually, like I wasn't dying inside, if anyone else had been at the cabin. She blinked. What? No. Why? I shrugged. Thought I heard a guy's voice in the background of something Talia posted. She froze. Just for a second. Then laughed. Oh, that was probably the neighbor. He came over to return a charger. Talia was outside on the porch when it happened. I nodded. Said nothing. She walked off like nothing happened. Later that afternoon, I confronted her. I pulled up the video on my phone and just handed it to her. No preamble. No, I'm sorry, but just silence. She watched the whole thing, arms folded, face blank. When it ended, she handed the phone back to me and said, "You really need to learn how to take things in context." That's what she said. Take things in context. Like I'd misinterpreted what a kiss meant. Like I'd somehow overreacted to watching my fiancé flirt with, reminisce with, and kiss another man in the vacation rental I paid for. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't even look scared. She looked annoyed. Like I was embarrassing her by being so sensitive. I asked her who he was. She rolled her eyes and said, "A friend from college. We used to mess around. It's ancient history." I asked why he was there. She said, "It wasn't planned. He was in the area. We caught up. That's all." I asked her if she still loved me. She didn't answer. She just stared at the wall and said, "You always do this. You always assume the worst of me." That's when I realized. She wasn't sorry. Because she didn't think she did anything wrong. And I'm still here. Still sleeping in the same bed. Still pretending I can fix this. But I'm starting to feel like I'm clinging to a version of her that never actually existed. And the wedding? It's 11 days away. The deposits are paid. The guests are flying in. My mom's already bought her dress. And Brenna is still acting like nothing happened. But the truth? Something did happen. And I have a feeling it's only the beginning. Because 2 hours ago, I found a message on her laptop she forgot to close. It wasn't to the guy from the video. It was to someone else. And what it said, I'm not sure I can come back from it. I didn't sleep that night. Not a minute. I just lay there next to her, watching the ceiling fan spin slowly above us like some cheap metaphor for my sanity slipping away. She breathed deeply, peacefully, like a woman who had nothing to hide. I kept glancing at her hand resting on my chest, fingers curled slightly. That same hand I once kissed during a thunderstorm while she laughed about her fear of lightning. That hand had held me through panic attacks. That hand had squeezed mine when her dog died. And now I couldn't even look at it without flinching. By the time the sun started leaking through the blinds, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I couldn't. But I also wasn't going to scream or accuse. That's not me. I can't do drama. I can't do ultimatums. And I definitely can't fake ignorance just to keep the wedding machine rolling forward. I needed honesty, even if it ripped me apart. She was making coffee in the kitchen when I said it. Calmly, quietly. I saw the videos. She didn't turn around, didn't gasp, didn't drop the mug, didn't even pause. She just said, "Which one?" That answer, that single sentence, like it was nothing. Like I had asked which brand of oat milk she picked up. My knees nearly gave out. I couldn't believe she wasn't denying it. Wasn't even surprised. I stood there, frozen, while she finally turned around and gave me this smile. Not warm. Not guilty. Just polite. "Ellis," she said softly. "You were never supposed to see that. I know. I whispered, my voice cracking. That's the worst part. She sighed and leaned against the counter like we were about to talk about taxes. Look, I don't want to fight. It was stupid. A lot of whine, a lot of posturing. We all say things we don't mean when we're trying to entertain drunk women in a rented cabin. That's what that was. No, Brenna, I said, louder this time, my hands shaking. That's not what that was. You mocked me. You mocked our entire relationship. You called me your retirement plan. You joked about cheating. And then, there's the third video. Her face stiffened just slightly. I had my answer. You knew it was still recording, I said. You looked right at the camera. You knew I might see it. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then she walked toward me, slow and careful, like I was a wounded animal she didn't want to spook. She placed her hand on my chest again, that same hand, and looked me dead in the eyes. You were always going to find something to break this, she whispered. You've been waiting for it. You want to be the victim, Ellis. You always do. You can't handle a woman who is fun, who doesn't worship you for being nice. You need to be hurt to feel important. I stepped back, like I'd been slapped. She wasn't denying anything. She was reframing it. She was taking what she did, what she said, and twisting it into my fault. I stood there, heart pounding, mind spiraling, trying to find words, any words, but all I could do was shake my head. She went back to her coffee like we hadn't just blown our engagement sky high. The wedding's in 3 weeks, she said casually, stirring in her oat milk. If you want out, just say so. But don't drag this out like some soap opera. Be a man about it. And I think that's when something broke in me. Because even though she had just emotionally gutted me, even though I had hours of footage that proved she saw me as a joke, I still didn't walk out. I told myself maybe she was right. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I had been looking for a reason to sabotage something good. Maybe love wasn't about feeling respected. Maybe it was about enduring, pushing through. Maybe I deserved her contempt. That's how low I'd fallen. But everything changed 2 days later when one of her bridesmaids, the quiet one, the one who didn't cheer, didn't clap, messaged me in the middle of the night with a sentence that made my blood run cold. There's more you don't know, and you need to see it before you marry her. And what she sent me, it wasn't a video. It was a recording, audio, clear as glass. And what I heard on that file, I swear to God, it rewired something in my brain. I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't even open the attachment right away. It was 1:43 a.m., and I was sitting on the floor of our bedroom closet like some terrified kid hiding from the monster under the bed. But the monster wasn't under anything. She was snoring in our bed across the hall, hugging the pillow I bought her for our anniversary, the one embroidered with future Mrs. Radley. Every time I saw that pillow, I wanted to set it on fire. The message had come from a bridesmaid named Cass. I didn't know her well. She was one of Brenna's college friends, quiet, always holding a LaCroix instead of champagne, the kind of girl who lingered at the edges of conversations and laughed half a second later than everyone else. I always assumed she didn't like me. Maybe she didn't, but for whatever reason, she had decided I needed to hear what she'd recorded. Her text was short. You deserve context. Just listen. I tapped play. The audio started with laughter, glasses clinking. Someone shouted something about shots in the hot tub. Normal Bachelorette chaos. But then the tone shifted. I heard Cass's voice. She must have hit record on her phone and kept it running in her pocket. And I recognized the setting instantly. The same cabin, that same cursed night, but this time not in front of everyone. This was a private conversation. Brenna, alone, whispering to someone. And then came a male voice. Not mine. Deep. Confident. Way too familiar. Seth, her ex. The guy she used to call a narcissistic artist with a jawline that forgave everything. The guy who showed up drunk at our engagement party and tried to toast to real love. The guy she swore she hadn't spoken to in over a year. Except now he was in the cabin. And they were alone. I can't believe you actually came, she said. Her voice was breathy. Not drunk. Not giggling. Just soft. Like she was 16 again and sneaking out of her parents' house. He laughed, low, smug. You said you needed closure. I'm here to close. You shouldn't be. If Ellis ever found out. He won't, Seth said. He's too nice to dig. Always has been. There was a pause. I heard movement. Fabric shifting. Her breathing, quicker now. You still think about me? He asked. Another pause. And then she said something I'll never forget, no matter how hard I try. Every time I look at Ellis, I wonder what it would have been like if you just fought harder. She whispered it. Like a confession. Like a truth she'd been dying to release. I stopped the recording right there. I couldn't go further. My stomach twisted. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Not because they kissed, though I was sure they had. Not even because she'd lied about contact. But because in that moment, I realized something much worse than cheating had happened. She regretted choosing me. Not just in some drunk girl moment of weakness kind of way. No, she actively longed for another life. With him, I was the safe plan. The soft pillow she collapsed on when the fireworks faded. And even worse, she invited him there. That wasn't accidental. That was intentional. She brought her ex to the cabin I paid for, during a weekend I was told was sacred to our future, and flirted with a second chance like I was just a backup file. And suddenly, everything made sense. The strange silences in our relationship. The little digs at my masculinity disguised as jokes. The way she always insisted on privacy, but demanded total transparency from me. It wasn't love. It was strategy, control. But the real punch in the gut? I didn't feel angry. I felt small, pathetic, like I was never in the running to begin with. Like I had spent the last 2 years convincing someone to wear a costume I designed, and now the mask was slipping. I messaged Cass. Why did you record this? She responded almost instantly. Because I knew she'd blame you. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because part of me already knew what was coming. And sure enough, the next morning, Brenna cornered me in the kitchen with crocodile tears, a trembling voice, and a brilliant performance about feeling unsafe in this relationship. She had seen the look in my eyes, she said. The distance. The judgment. She knew I had been snooping, breaking her trust. She even hinted that maybe we needed a break before the wedding to clear the air. It was all happening exactly how Cass predicted. She wasn't sorry. She was preparing a narrative. A story she could tell her family, her friends, maybe even a therapist. One where she was the victim, and I was the controlling, suspicious fiancé who pushed her away. But I didn't push. I stayed quiet. Because what I was about to do next required absolute silence. And she never saw it coming. There's a kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels surgical. That's what the apartment was like the day after I heard the recording. Clean, calm, colorless. Brenna moved through the rooms like nothing had changed, humming Lana Del Rey while she packed her gym bag, asking if I wanted anything from Whole Foods. I nodded. Almond milk, please. I didn't look up. But inside, I was done playing the fool. I didn't scream. I didn't demand answers. I didn't cry or accuse or spiral into another round of self-blame. I knew what she was doing. She was softening the runway for a controlled landing, trying to make me look unstable so she could walk away clean. A masterclass in image control. PR professional through and through. So I decided to speak her language. That morning, while she was out, I took her wedding binder. Yes, the big one with the color-coded tabs and mood boards and floral mock-ups, and photographed every page. I uploaded it to a private drive labeled Contingency. Then I packed it back perfectly, just as she left it, like nothing had ever been touched. Next, I started locking down the accounts. Joint ones. The wedding registry. The Airbnb booking. The venue deposit. I didn't cancel anything. I just changed the passwords, rerouted the email confirmations, and created backups of every single document. Bank transactions. Vendor quotes. Messages with her mom about seating arrangements. Why? Because I needed proof. Not of her cheating. I already had that. I needed proof that I had done nothing malicious. That I hadn't sabotaged anything. Because I knew exactly what she would do when things imploded. She'd play the card every manipulator keeps tucked under their sleeve. I tried, but he just wasn't emotionally stable. I'd heard her talk about exes that way. Seen how easily she could turn real pain into polished narratives. No one ever questioned her. She was too good, too polished, too heartbreaking when she wanted to be. So I stopped trying to defend myself in advance. Instead, I started building a trail. Quietly, efficiently. While she slept. While she showered. While she FaceTimed her sister and talked about which playlist they'd walk down the aisle to. And then I did something I still can't quite believe. I emailed Seth. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't insult him. I just wrote. You and I both know she doesn't belong to either of us. But if you've got more to say, now's the time. Otherwise, I'm marrying a PR campaign, not a person. He never responded. But he read it. I saw the read receipt. And later that night, Brenna had a full-on meltdown when she checked her phone. I watched from the hallway as she stared at her screen, jaw clenched, thumbs twitching like she wanted to text but didn't know how. She deleted something, then threw her phone across the bed and screamed into a pillow. I didn't ask what was wrong. She didn't tell me. That same night, she came into the kitchen in an oversized hoodie, barefoot, smelling like eucalyptus shampoo, and asked me, in the softest voice I've ever heard from her, "Do you still want this?" I looked up from the stove, stirred the pasta sauce, let the steam fog my glasses. Then I said, "Of course." Because I did, but not in the way she thought. I wanted the ceremony, the dress, the aisle, the guests, the speeches. I wanted it all, but not for love, not for romance. I wanted everyone in her world. Every friend who clapped at her bachelorette confessions, every bridesmaid who smiled through lies, every family member who saw me as the golden retriever fiancé. I wanted them all to be there when it happened, when the curtain dropped, because there's a very specific type of silence that comes after a public reveal, one that not even Brenna could spin, and I was done playing the fool. The rehearsal dinner was held at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the harbor. Her idea, of course. The place was all glass panels, Edison bulbs, and $20 cocktails served in ceramic cups shaped like seashells. She loved it, said it gave romantic coastal energy. I thought it looked like a furniture catalog with trust fund trauma, but I kept that to myself. That night, every detail was perfect, just like her. She floated around the room in a cream-colored dress, her hair in some impossibly loose braid that looked both accidental and expensive. Her friends gasped and cooed every time she walked past, telling her how glowy she looked, how ready she seemed. Her dad shook my hand and gave me a speech about responsibility and what it means to protect a daughter. I nodded, smiled, took a sip of whatever was in my cup, and wished it were poison. I had decided on the toast that morning. It came to me while I was brushing my teeth, staring at her lipstick smudged on the mirror. I realized there would be no better place to begin than here. Not with rage, not with accusations, but with the one thing she couldn't spin in real time. The truth delivered like a gift in front of her entire audience. And so, when dessert was served, some bougie lavender panna cotta with edible flowers that tasted like regret, I stood up and clinked my glass. The room went quiet. Brenna turned to me, smiling that perfectly calibrated smile that had gotten her out of every confrontation she ever caused. I cleared my throat and smiled back. "I just wanted to say a few words," I began. "Not long, I promise." She relaxed, probably expected me to gush about how lucky I was, how I couldn't wait to marry the most extraordinary woman in the world. That's what my role was, the adoring straight man to her chaotic leading lady. But instead, I said this: "I want to thank you all for coming tonight. It means the world to us. We've been through a lot to get here, not just planning and vendors and budgets, but a lot of learning. And lately, I've learned something important about what love is and what it isn't." A few people chuckled nervously. Brenna stiffened, but her face didn't change. That's how good she was. I continued, "Love isn't something you perform. It's not something you rehearse or write into your brand. It's not a role you audition for when it's convenient. Love is truth. Messy, inconvenient, terrifying truth." The silence spread like a stain. Some people think love is about always being believed. Others think it's about being forgiven before they even apologize. But real love? It's not afraid of being seen. All of it. The good, the bad, and the deeply uncomfortable. Brenna's smile cracked. I saw her blink. Once, slow, the way she does when she's recalculating. Her hand found her wine glass. She raised it mid-toast like she wanted to steer the room back toward safety. But I didn't stop. "I've been told I'm too nice," I said, my voice steady. "That I fold too easily. That I don't know how to push back. But sometimes, kindness isn't weakness. Sometimes it's just patience, waiting for the right moment to be honest." I raised my glass. And I think this is that moment. Dead silence. No clapping. No laughter. Just 30 people frozen in a rooftop restaurant filled with fairy lights and tension. Brenna opened her mouth. I could see her ready to pivot, to retake control. But before she could speak, I stepped down from the little platform and whispered to her as I passed, "You can keep the dress. You won't be needing the speech." Then I walked out. No yelling. No scene. Just gravity. I didn't look back, but I heard it. The rising murmur, the confusion, her voice trying to recover, the fork clinking against glass as someone else tried to regain order. But order was gone. And so was I. I didn't go home. I had already packed. I had already moved my essentials into a friend's place 2 nights before. I had already removed my name from the marriage license application. I had already contacted the venue and sent them the full balance, under her name, with a note. Transfer this credit to the bride's new event if she chooses to continue. She has the spotlight. Let her use it. I didn't ruin her wedding. I handed it to her. But without me, it would never be what she wanted. Because there's one thing she never prepared for. A man who walks away without needing to be chased. When I left the restaurant, I didn't walk fast. I wasn't storming out. I wasn't breaking down or fighting back tears. I was just still. For the first time in months, maybe years, my body didn't feel like it was clenching around something invisible. I could breathe. I could feel the night air on my face. It smelled like the sea and wine and the expensive perfume she always wore that I now realized I never really liked. I didn't block her. That would have given her something to scream about, something to screenshot, twist, or mourn. No, I left the door open. Not for reconciliation, but so she could look into the empty hallway and realize I wasn't coming back through it. Sometimes, silence is the loudest humiliation you can deliver to someone who lives for control. That night, she called me 19 times. I didn't answer a single one. The voicemails started soft. Ellis, babe. What was that? Can you please talk to me? This isn't funny. You scared people. Then they turned frantic. Where the hell are you? I swear to God, if this is some stunt, I will not be embarrassed like this. You owe me an explanation. Finally, they melted into desperation. Ellis, please. You can't do this. You don't understand what you're doing. People are asking questions. My mom. I don't know what to tell anyone. Just talk to me. Please. But I had nothing left to give. I turned my phone off and slept for 10 hours straight. First time in weeks. No dreams, no panic, just a stillness I didn't even know my brain was capable of anymore. The next morning, I woke up to 74 texts. She had gone from rage to reason to outright begging. She said she was blindsided, that I had ambushed her, that she had no idea I was upset. She told me I was unfair, cruel, not the man she fell in love with. And that last one almost made me laugh. Because she was finally right. I wasn't that man anymore. And thank God for that. By noon, she sent one final message. You're making me look like a monster. You don't get to just disappear. I deserve closure. I didn't reply, because she didn't want closure. She wanted an audience. That's when the side campaign started. I got a message from her sister, long, wordy, full of phrases like, you've always seemed anxious, and maybe this is a bigger emotional issue than Brenna even knew how to handle. Like I was some malfunctioning toaster oven they'd all been politely pretending worked. A bridesmaid, not Cass, another one, texted me late that evening with faux sympathy. Hey, just checking in. I know things are messy right now, but if you ever want to talk about it, privately, I'm around. Which sounded supportive, until I scrolled back through my screenshots of her cheering Brenna on during that now infamous husband leash speech. They were rallying, rewriting, spinning the collapse. But it was too late. I wasn't playing the role anymore. And without me in the narrative, Brenna's story stopped making sense. Then came the worst one. Her mom. She called me. I didn't recognize the number, so I picked up without thinking. Her voice was flat, clipped, surgical. She said, Ellis, I need you to understand that no matter what you think happened, you've caused a lot of pain. My daughter is shattered. And whether you intended to or not, you humiliated her. She may never recover from this. I paused, took a breath. Then I asked her calmly, do you want to know why I did it? She hesitated. No, that's not my place. Then don't tell me I caused the damage, I said. Just because I turned on the light doesn't mean I set the fire. And I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to any of them. I didn't post online. I didn't defend myself publicly. I didn't leak the videos or audio. But I made sure that one other person heard it all. Her dad. Because despite everything, I respected him. He always treated me like a man, not a prop. So I sent him the file. No context, no caption, and 2 hours later, he replied, you did the right thing. I'm sorry. It was the first time I cried in weeks. Not because I was sad. Because someone finally saw the full picture and didn't try to erase me from it. 2 weeks after the non-wedding, I walked into my apartment for the first time since I left it. I'd avoided it until then. Couldn't stand the thought of seeing her toothbrush next to mine, her half-empty shampoo in the shower, that stupid framed print in the kitchen that said, "Good vibes only," like it wasn't a threat. But I had to go back eventually. My lease was still in my name. The first thing I noticed was how spotless everything was. She had come back at some point, clearly, and scrubbed the place like she was erasing her fingerprints from a crime scene. Her key sat in the bowl by the door, along with her engagement ring, perched carefully on a folded napkin, like it was something delicate she hoped I wouldn't throw away in anger. But I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I had already moved on. Not with someone new. Not yet. But with myself. In the weeks following the collapse, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I made choices for me. I took time off work. I booked a solo trip to Oregon. No one's idea of a honeymoon. But it was quiet, foggy, full of pine trees and coffee shops with strangers who didn't know me as the almost husband. I deleted my wedding Pinterest board. I donated the cufflinks her dad had given me. I took her photos off my phone, but not out of spite. Just peace. I didn't need them anymore. I finally stopped needing to remember someone who never truly existed. I started therapy. Not because of her. Though, let's be honest, she helped push me there. But because I realized how long I'd been shrinking myself just to keep other people comfortable. I spent years thinking if I was just nicer, quieter, more patient, people would love me the way I love them. But love doesn't work that way. It's not something you earn by becoming smaller. One day, about a month after the toast, I got an email from Cass, the bridesmaid who had secretly recorded the audio, the one person in that whole circle who didn't buy into Brenna's theater. It was short. Just, "I hope you're doing okay. You didn't deserve what happened. I know that's probably not worth much, but I just wanted to say it." And you know what? It did mean something. Not because I needed validation, but because it reminded me that there are people out there who don't fall for the spotlight, who notice the quiet ones, who understand that the people being mocked in the background often see the truth better than anyone else in the room. I never responded. I didn't need to. Some things are better left unsaid when the silence is finally working in your favor. As for Brenna, I don't know what story she told in the end. I imagine she had to pivot hard. Maybe she told people I was unstable, or emotionally cold, or maybe she leaned into the victim role, said I panicked, bailed, broke her heart without warning. I'll never know, and I don't care, because I finally stopped writing myself into her narrative and started writing my own. Today, I don't look back on that almost marriage with bitterness. I don't flinch when I hear her name. I don't wonder what if. I just feel grateful. Grateful that I saw the truth before I made it legal. Grateful that I learned how strong, quiet men can be. Grateful that I got out before the leash tightened. And above all else, I'm grateful for the man I've become since she let me go. Because I didn't lose her. She lost me. And that was the first smart decision I never even knew I made.